Hello, I'm Theolyn, and this is SoulSchool again. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel if you want to keep being updated as I go along with this series. And this particular series is called Soul Purpose Astrology. And if you know anything about me, you will already know that I teach meditation, I teach about healing, I have a particular interest in angels, but also for very many years I've worked with astrology, because astrology tells us something about the time that we live in, the time that our soul has engaged with in order to fulfill its purpose. Now, many astrologers don't even talk about souls, but I think it's really important that we do that, because that gives us a deeper, wider perspective on our human life, which is being lived in time. Because our soul has come from an eternal realm, from a timeless realm. So naturally, our soul is going to face challenges. And it is those challenges, which can be positive opportunities or negative stresses, those challenges are what allow our soul to create something special out of the invisible world in which we were originally being enveloped. So it's like the soul is an invisible and unformed, and it's not really an entity, that was the word I was going to use, but it's an unformed feeling. Let's use the word feeling. And it's a feeling that has divine origins. We can take on board perhaps that divinity itself, or God, or the source, whatever word you like to use, has got an infinite desire to create and to express itself through beauty and through life. And when we come into the world as souls, into human lives, then we are part of that expression. It's almost like God or the divinity is an artist who's got a range of enormous canvases and enormous piles of paint or marble or whatever method he likes to use, he or she or it likes to use for its creativity. And your soul and my soul, we are expressions of that incredible creativity. I mean, one phrase that has actually been used for the divine is the creative intelligence. Creative intelligence. So there's a driving passion and a force that allows creativity on such a vast, vast scale, cosmic scale, beyond our potential to measure. And we're just a tiny little bit of that. So as I said in the Soul's Journey recording that I made a couple of days ago, our soul comes through from what we call a transcendental realm. Transcendental just means beyond the physical. And it comes through that realm with some kind of intention, with some kind of purpose. And the purpose means that choices have to be made. So it's at that stage, before even entering conception, that soul is researching, if you like, on an amazingly vast scale, looking around. Where can I go? Where can I go? Who can I find to be my parents? And whatever's going on the earthly plane is already in process. So the soul's got to find a potential opportunity to land, to arrive. Now, the transcendental realm of inspiration and spiritual power is usually associated with the element of fire. And in Kabbalah, that's called the first world of creativity, inspiring passion for something to start unfolding. And the second world is the world of air, which is associated with mind. And because mind is involved, there are choices being made. And as soon as one choice is made, then it starts to activate further and further choices. So as soon as you, as a soul, choose the parents, you have also chosen to enter into a series of patterns that are already established in the history of the people who are going to be your parents. So this is why we have so many layers of intentionality and history and karma to deal with when we are doing our spiritual work. And we have got to untangle some of that, because when we do spiritual work, we can often feel that we are in like a big bramble thicket, you know, like the one round the Sleeping Beauty's castle. And that bramble thicket has been created potentially by ancestors of ours. And we've arrived in it, and we've got to untangle what our soul wants and look forward and not be heavily tied in with past karma, while at the same time we have got to know that that past karma was significant, because otherwise we wouldn't have chosen those parents. This is one of the issues that we have to deal with. So the next element is water, which is to do with emotions. It's to do with nurturing. It's also highly creative, because you can have a creative inspiration and it's very fiery, but unless you nurture that, then the creativity can just, drift away like sparks in the air. So water is a very powerful element, and that is where we find ourselves as a creature that's beginning to move towards birth. We are in the womb, we are surrounded by water, and the feelings that we receive there from the mother who's carrying us are also highly significant. And there's a lot that can be said about that, and I will be saying a lot about it when I run the Soul Purpose Astrology classes. The last element, the fourth world, is sometimes called manifestation. The element is earth. And this brings me to the main point of this particular talk that I'm giving now, and that is that at the point when we are born, we land on planet Earth at a particular place and a particular time, on a particular date, and time by the hour, by the clock. And that is what the astrologer takes note of in order to create your natal chart, or what is called your horoscope. Horoscope means watcher of the hour. And the most important thing that the astrologer has to do is to put in place the 4 points that are referred to as creating the cross of matter, right? So the moment that you enter, you've left the womb, you've left the world of water, you have now arrived. And sometimes when I think about it, I think actually it really is quite extraordinary, because I actually met somebody many years ago who was born on a train. And I also think the ballet dancer Nureyev was born on a train. So it's almost like you could be about to be born and your mother might... Hello again, I'm really sorry for that little glitch in the system. I nearly started again, but because I was on a good roll, I thought I'll just create a second movie and segue them together, so I hope it runs smoothly for you. Yes, I was just talking about the fact that some people can be born while the mother's transporting herself from one place to another, and she may expect to give birth to her baby in one place, and actually, under various circumstances, she may be in another physical, geographical place. And that makes a difference to the horoscope. And the timing makes a difference to the horoscope. If you have twins, my mother was a twin, and her brother and she were born 20 minutes apart, which means that the sign rising on the horizon, the astrological sign rising on the horizon, was different. And she had Aries on her ascending or rising sign, and he had Pisces, and they were very different. Everything else was pretty similar in the charts. So I just mentioned the ascending sign, and quite likely people who are watching this know what I mean by that, but let me just double check, because in the point of the chart which is in the east, which is where the sun rises, there will not necessarily, the sun won't be rising when you're born, but something will be rising. One of the zodiac signs will be rising, and we mark that as the ascending sign. So that's a point, a significant point, very powerful, very important, because that's the energy that you're bringing in. It's a bit like the spring equinox. It's like, wow, this is the newness of who you are with that ascending sign. And then at the top of the chart, we have what's called the MC, the mid-heaven. And the mid-heaven, the equivalent of that would be the summer solstice, when everything's got to its height. So that's why astrologers think of it as how you can materially experience yourself in the world when you get to your best potential. And it doesn't have anything to do with your age. You know, you could be 20 or 30 and become very competent and efficient in your chosen vocation, whatever it is, or you might not do it till you were 70 or 80, like me. So we have the ascending sign, we have the midheaven. So those are 2 points of the compass, so to speak. On the descendant, which is the west, which is where the sun was set, we would also have a sign, and it's the opposite sign. So in the case of somebody with Aries ascending, it will be Libra descending. And that sign tells you something about how you interact with other people in the world. And astrologers always look at the descending sign to see what kind of partners you might like to work with. That might be marital partners or business partners, but it's something to do with other people. The ascending sign is to do with you and who you are and where you're going. The descending sign is how you interact with people. So that's ascending, midheaven, descending. Then we come right down to the bottom of the chart, and that is the lower heaven, it's called. So that's exactly opposite to the midheaven. So if the midheaven was, for example, in the sign of Leo, the lower heaven would be in the opposite sign of Aquarius. So you can see, if you draw a circle for the horoscope, that you overlay the horoscope with a cross. It may not be in equal sections, but that's another matter we can't go into here. They may not be, all 4 quarters might not be the same size. But there will always be those 4 points. And they're called the cross of matter, boom, like that, because this is what you face when you come into the material world. And they indicate how you are going to steer your ship of life. The ancients called the ascending sign the helmsman, right? So in charge of the wheel of the ship, standing at the front of the ship, hands on the tiller. The midheaven is something that you would strive for in the material world, where you would like to be seen and be recognised and make your mark, whether it's a small mark because it's just something within a small community, or whether it's in a larger community or on the world stage even. All those potentials are there for anybody. But when we look at the chart, we can tell something about what that visibility might be. Because the midheaven is something visible. It's like the sun on the summer solstice, as I said. So then when we get round to the descending sign, that's your partners, that's who you get on with in the world. When we come down to the bottom, we've come down to a quiet place, but it tells us something about where we came from. It tells us something about our roots. Think of it as a tree of life, and the trunk of the tree comes up the middle of the chart, and there at the top are the blossoms and the leaves, but at the bottom are the roots. So the lower heaven always tells us something about where you came from, what your ancestry is about, possibly what your past lives are about. So this cross of matter that you come in with, as you are born, is fixed, and you cannot get away with it. You cannot get away with it or from it. That's a given. How you react, how you respond, how you become a creative soul within that framework is down to you. And that's why I like to call this soul purpose astrology, because even though the cross of matter is a standardized way of approaching the horoscope with the notion that your soul is the creative force behind the natal chart, is perhaps a different perspective that you may not have come across. So again, I apologise for the glitch, and I hope it's going to work when I put the recording together for the channel. And don't forget, by the way, to subscribe to the channel and get in touch with me if you are interested in the classes, either this autumn or perhaps in 2025. Many blessings and goodbye.